episode of The Next Fix, and we've got Jeremy here with us. And Jeremy, him and I were speaking briefly before we started recording, and this guy's got no shortage of stories, I'm imagining. But I am all hearing it for the first time, just like you guys. But yeah, man, Jeremy, he's hailing from California. What's happening, man? How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. I'm super excited to get to chat with you here. It's nice and early in the morning.
It is early in the morning for you. Right, I hear you, man. So listen, what we always go over, right, and what we all want to know in here is like, when did the shit hit the fan? Like, we're searching for people that get it, man. And so, share with us, man. Like, what did it look like? What was it that got you there? What were the dark moments?
So, my addiction through my life has been workaholism, and I worked my way in my life from being a lobby security guard to being the CEO of a major nonprofit organization. And I was able to do that through just sheer willpower and work to a point where I was spending all of my time at work, and that meant day and night. And at the end of that road, I had to kind of reassemble who it was that I am without all of that.
Right. And so we're talking like, I'm imagining this was how long was that journey, security guard to CEO?
20 years.
20 years, right? And along those lines, that band of work expands, right? Because, when you're security guard, you clock in and clock out. It's like been 6 or 8 hours, right? But when it was at its worst, like, what are we talking here? 18 hours?
We're talking 80-hour work weeks.
80 hours, yeah.
And we're talking actually sleeping at the headquarters of the organization in a bus in the back of the parking lot. And so that I was consistently there and could just get up out of the bus, walk in there, take a shower, and sit at my desk and work all day and not leave the building.
Right. And it's funny that I also lived in a van for a little while. It was a different circumstances. I wasn't working at all. It was a different circumstance, but I am actually familiar with getting ready, like in a stall or a bath, or but nonetheless, but what is for certain is that there was some suffering going on in one way or another. So where exactly was that? Like, what was it? Because none of that seems healthy.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll kind of start at the beginning of all of this, because
please do. Yeah.
This goes back quite a long ways. And I was a child of the 1980s when ADHD was just starting to be known as something that mainly little boys dealt with, because it wasn't really being diagnosed in little girls at the time, because the boys were much louder and we would fight more. So throughout my school time, I had a really difficult time paying attention in school, and I was having a hard time with just being able to achieve anything. And I picked up some drumsticks at a certain point, and I started playing drums and realized that I could actually be good at something if I really put my mind to it. And so I became very fanatical about playing drums. And every time I would come home from school, I would just play for hours and hours, play on the weekends. And I started joining groups that would really challenge my expertise. Right. And I joined a group that was a marching band. It was a very highly competitive marching organization, which was kind of one of the best in the world, very known in that world. And we would rehearse and practice 12 hours a day, and then go on tour for 90 days in the summertime. And so it would
How old were you? This is high school?
This was 18 through 21.
18 through 21. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so this became my life. And I lived doing this drumming thing, went to school kind of on the side, went to university on the side, but mainly was doing the drumming thing. And it was you got better the more, it was like lifting weights. The more you did it, the heavier and better and faster that you got. And so I was getting this message that the more that I worked at it, the more that I would put into it, the better I would get. Always been a little bit of a slow learner. It took me a little bit longer to memorize the music than the other members and so forth. So if I just put in 10 times the amount of time, then I could be where everybody else was at. And so that was the message. And after I left that, of course, you can't live that life your whole life, really,
Right. Right.
of just playing drums in a competitive marching band. And so,
It's right.
you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that has a
You had to
shelf
turn a
life.
corner. And here comes lobby security guard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I hadn't really gotten an education in anything else, and so I get a bachelor's degree, and nobody's hiring anything, and so I'm a security guard with a bachelor's degree. So I just started riding a bicycle, and I was riding a bicycle like crazy, and I was putting in 500 to 1,000 miles a week on my bicycle
So
while
now
being a security
just
guard.
just to stop you here, right? Like, and again, I'll touch on it a little bit about my perspective on this. Is that one? I hear that these are addiction traits, right? These are traits of an addict. But I also have another opinion that addicts make the world go round, right? It's the people that have that.
Yeah,
So it's this conundrum and also a spectrum, right? On like depending on what you're addicted to. But there's all sorts of unhealthy parts that come with a person obsessed or fanatical, right? But then when you
right.
interchange that word with addiction and abuse, it's like all of a sudden it's like it's that teeter totter. And again, it's like it's a tricky space to operate in. But nonetheless, okay, so but you still have that element. Now you're riding the bike. Now it's the bike. It's no longer the drums. You're riding the bike like a maniac.
Yeah, literally rode my bicycle from San Francisco to Portsmouth, New Hampshire one summer.
Dude, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get married, and I'm still, really into this cycling thing. And it's great because I'm really fast and I'm really good at it and all these other things. And then I start not liking my job. And so my answer is work harder. And at this point, I was working for the federal government as the Social Security claims representative. And I didn't like doing that. And so what do? Well, I get myself into grad school, because if I put on more work, then I'll get where I need to go. And so I get out of grad school and I start doing marriage and family therapy. And, it was great. I've learned a lot over the past 15 years. I've become a very good therapist. And of course, as I began to get mastery in that, I'm like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? So I go to grad school again and I get an MBA.
Okay.
And I'm just putting in more and more time. And I'm like, now I want to get into leadership. I want to get into leadership jobs and this kind of thing. And so I'm a good 12, 13, 14 years into my career when I start entering actual like C-level leadership at various different social services agencies and so forth. And I'm experiencing what it's like to be in the C-level, which is absolute constant work, constant criticism, constant on the spot. And the criticism is something that I had learned through my life, that I needed to do every single thing that I could to avoid criticism. And so that meant working more. And the more that I worked, the worse my anxiety got, until as a vice president of a social services agency, I was beginning to have my first panic attacks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was happening. I knew what it was because I'm a therapist. I know I help people with this sort of stuff. And so I knew what to do: close my eyes, get on the ground, count the carpet fibers, count them one by one, breathe. So I never really went to the hospital, but I knew how to handle it when my anxiety was, when the room started spinning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I learned to kind of work my way through those. And
sure. What was your wife during all this? It's like, I mean, if you're that embedded or like entrenched in this much work, like, is she like on board? Is she like okay with it? Or is she unaware?
no, she's very aware. And through this, she's telling me that my level of work is unhealthy for me, that it's not good for my health. It's not good for us. It's not good for my friendships. And while she's right, I kind of have this idea of, yeah, but I'm the man. I have to pay the bills around here. Like I'm the one that ultimately is responsible for everything here. And so maybe there's something that my wife doesn't really understand about what my role as a man actually is.
Yeah, because you're thinking the lights are on, There's food on the table. Like, what the heck is what's the big deal?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing what it takes to keep it all going, right? And so this opportunity comes along to become, incidentally, the CEO of that marching band that I used to be in. Okay.
We've come full circle.
We've come full circle. Okay, this is the level of fanatic that I was. That we had a badge on our uniforms, and it was this organization was known for this badge. I have that badge tattooed on my chest.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
that's
Yep.
how fanatical I was in this organization, right? So I become the CEO of this organization. And of course, I want to be the greatest CEO that this organization has ever had. I'm going to really show, what this organization can do. And the job was high stress, high pressure, high criticism, and often on the spot and a lot of public speaking. And if I could just white knuckle this thing, I was going to be super successful. And so that's exactly what I did. I traveled all through the country for this organization. I was good friends with the mayor of the town that the organization was in, and I would go to the organization's headquarters, and I would stay there for a full week and just put in maybe over 100 hours of work on everything from making sure that the fleet was maintained to looking over the fundraising to meeting with people who are in the local area who can help with the funding of the organization and these kinds of things. It's definitely CEO work, but I just could not stop. Whenever I had an idle moment, I was thinking, okay, how can I use this time? What can I do now?
Yeah. And there's a key element too that I believe that all people addicts, right, that share with you is like the lack of moderation, right? Like it's just it's not an option. Like I'm not able to do anything a little bit, right? And clearly you have expressed that, right? Like you go just completely whatever it is, whether it's your identity as a part of this organization from the tattoo, like there's no like middle ground for any of us, right? Addicts are just, but I also see that as sometimes it can be a gift, right? And so, nonetheless, I stopped you there for a little bit. So, all right, so you're the CEO. You would go to the headquarters. You're working 100 hours sometimes. You got the tattoo on your chest. It's fanatical to say the very least. Now, and you're about to say what unfolded next.
So it got to the point, I managed this organization successfully through COVID, and there was a lot of what companies had to do, which was guess what comes next. Guess what comes next with your budget. Guess what comes next with your funding. Guess what comes next with what the world needs. And so with all of this work, I was working through the day, often through the night until I'd fall asleep at my desk. And oftentimes my employees would be getting emails, 2:33 in the morning from me. Not that I would expect them to do that sort of thing, but I figured I'm the man. I got to hold this whole thing up. I don't expect what I expect of me. And I was starting to burn out. I was starting to get tired. My body was starting to fall apart. And the way that I started thinking was, I've heard you can stay up all night if you use methamphetamines. And I've heard that sometimes other C-level people do a little bump of cocaine and they can keep working and they don't get tired. And so I was starting to think crazy thoughts,
right?
That, because that stuff has never really been my own bag, and I never used it before, but I was starting to think about it, like what would give me that extra juice to get me across the next finish line. And the problem is, the finish line kept moving. There was no getting really. And so what ended up developing is that I ended up having a set of differences with another high-ranking person within that organization, and I ended up losing a political battle with this person. And so I end up without a job, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what the hell just happened in my life? Because there's this huge void, and now I've given up on my friends, not given up. I haven't had time for my friends.
Of course.
I've had time for my family.
And they weren't a priority.
Right. I haven't had time for these other things in my life that, since I've been doing this job, I've been completely avoiding and just doing the job. And so I had to kind of figure out what has happened to my identity through this time, and what do I want? Because obviously all of this work that I put into this, all of my expertise, all of my passion, all of everything that I had done, it really resulted in nothing, literally nothing. And so there I am, having put the best of everything that I had into all of this, and it resulted in something that was not fulfilling, not good. So how do I work in my life to avoid this kind of crash ever coming again? Okay, I've already proved to myself that I can be a high reaching person.
Yeah.
I'm a person, I can achieve things. I can get diplomas. Okay. So what is it that I want to be in this world, and in what space do I want to really help others in a way that is productive? And over the past 10 years, I have begun to study and understand more about plant-based medicine, sacred plant-based medicine. And I'm talking about actual, like, non-addictive, real medicine done with the right set and setting that can actually help evolve and change your mind. And so this is awakening has been kind of going on in the background for me over the past many, many years. And here I am, I have this opportunity to reinvent myself. And
Okay.
this medicine that has done so much healing and so much help for me in the background, even though I was doing this crazy workaholism stuff.
So you never did the meth. I'm just messing with you, man.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
What you did. But now, okay, so, but there is this other, you made the right choice, right? Because I'll tell you, if you went the cocaine route, you can be awake, but you're definitely not effective. So, all right. So, but yeah, so in the last 10 years though, that time frame is surprising to me where we're at, because I don't know, you're searching for a solution. Clearly you want to push the limit, and you know that you can keep the pace. All right, so sorry, I was just, I guess, clarifying in my head like where we're at, and so this is you have the opportunity of reinvention, right? There's a catastrophe or an opportunity, and so that's what I imagine is coming next, right?
Well, it is because I was having this thing where, okay, here's my work that I do in this, and here's this plant-based space where I can actually go into this wonderful space of transcending my consciousness and being in this spiritual space. And it was kind of this over here, and also this was most of my life. And so what I wanted to do was to make all of this space of peace, this space of transcendence, of empathy for myself and for everybody else, to be the center of my life, and to start living my life through a space of helping people transcend, a space of figuring out my own weaknesses for maybe ambition, power, prestige, these things, and to actually move into a space that was healthy for me and for the people around me. And so I began to build my own private practice as a coach, therapist, kind of transcendent specialist, and work for myself for the very first time in my life. I've always worked within these corporate ladders, worked within these systems where there's always a formula and there's always an understanding of like where you need to be and whose friend you need to be, and how many hours make you shine.
And the worst part about that is exactly what you expressed, is that like when it was over and you had exited because of the political confrontation or trouble you had with somebody else, there was nothing. And that is like, it's like you put in all of that, and then you might get a severance, you might get, I don't know, a thank you. Like, but then at that following week, you no longer have pay. You no longer, I mean, it's like literally wiped clean out. You probably gained some skills, of course, and you learned a lot about yourself. But yeah, that is what you're rectifying when you have your own thing and you're creating right. And so that is very cool, man.
Yeah, I ended up with a severance and a stupid tattoo.
I forgot about the tattoo already. Oh my God. We got to get that thing covered up, man. I don't know.
I'm working on it right now. I got it halfway done.
Like a pterodactyl or something. I don't know. Something cool. It's definitely got to be something to replace that thing. So, man, that's tough, right? So you got a severance and a tattoo. Boy. All right. So what is it, man? Like, what is this? What is this all natural? What's it all about?
So I immediately enrolled in another program, which is what I do, right? But this program was offered as a part of me being a licensed marriage and family therapist, and it was for professionals, and it was through the California Institute of Integral Studies, and it was the preeminent program on psychedelic therapy, to learn not only about the ancient part of these medicines, the plant-based ones, the lab-based ones, how to actually do this kind of medicine with people that can help people transcend, trauma, addiction, transcend their personal space into a space that's much more healthy. And so this wonderful learning was something that helped me see areas in my life where I had really thought that I was kind of living high, but I was really living low. And, my dragging myself down, dragging myself through things just through anxiety and workaholism. And so this work has been something that I've been able to help watch people heal themselves through this medicine. Now, the medicine is one part of things, but as we know, you don't necessarily need medicine to change your life. And so the other part of what I do is coaching to help people who are struggling in the way that I was with this overbalance of work in their life be able to balance their lives and to accomplish the things that they want, because we're not just the professional, we're the personal, the professional, the spiritual, and the physical health. I mean, these things, it's these four things. And so if you're working too much in this professional world, if that is your entire life, what's going on with your relationships? What's going on with your friends? What's going on with your family? You only have so much time in this life with your parents alive. What's your relationship with them? There comes a time when you can't talk to them anymore. And so are you carving out that time for family vacations, for your children, instead of just simply achieving and working and working? And so I help people either through medicine or through my just straight on coaching, be able to rebalance their lives and live healthy lives, live happy lives, accomplish the things that they want to in a strategic way. Because, with me with my problems with ADHD, I tend to react to whatever's sitting in front of me right now and get it done. Okay.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's snowing outside. If the garbage needs to go out, the garbage is going out. I'm doing everything right now that it's in my head. And so if I can do it myself and help other people essentially build a strategic plan for your life, values, mission statement, goals, measurables, deliverables, weekly checklists, and stuff like that, to actually rebalance your life and not give all of that wonderful energy that you have in a life to a company that doesn't care about you. A company that will throw you off the balcony with a severance and a tattoo instead of really loving you.
Yeah.
And really you doing work that in your life that is fulfilling, that connects you closer to God, that connects you closer to the people around you, and that gives you a sense of empathy for the world and yourself and everyone in it, instead of just simply needing to race a clock.
So, Jeremy, what is the medicine? Like, I mean, what are we talking here? Because are we doing, what is it? Ayahuasca? Is it microdosing mushrooms, or what is it? It's like, which I just learned about kava. I'm learning about all these things.
Yes.
Through these magnificent shows, but like, so what is it, man? What does that look like? What is it? What kind of protocol is it? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, so the medicine that is legal in the United States to do with a licensed professional right now is ketamine. And that medicine, it's a very light medicine. It's a very kind of fast acting up and down medicine, where you tend to go into a space of feeling more empathy for yourself and a space of self-love and all of this. The medicines that are what I would consider to be longer acting and more depth would be the mushrooms and the ayahuasca and these kinds of medicine. If you're doing a mushroom in the right set and setting, a mushroom can last between 6 to 12 hours at times.
Right.
And you really, really go into a different space. It's very important for a person to have a sitter with them that can help them stay in a happy place, or if there's a challenge, be able to meet that challenge and to, You do a couple of sessions before the medicine to set down, what do I do if it's challenging? How do I breathe through this? What's it going to be like? How do I respond to the person in the room that's trying to help me? And then do the medicine. And in that space, it's mainly a quiet time where you're in an inner space. You're experiencing different dimensions.
Yeah.
Maybe ancestors, maybe beings that you don't know, but that are communicating with you, maybe monsters that are there to help teach you about some horrible trauma that's gone on in your life, but you get to entertain it. You get to experience it with your whole mind in it, outside of the daily responsibilities and where I have to be in an hour. Right.
Yeah. And you know what, man, my experience with psychedelics, I mean, most times, whatever it was, and by, just for clarity here, I've never done it in an organized or, in a setting like that. Every damn time I've had an epiphany, but that epiphany has come to me in a state, and I got nobody except for other people that are also on the same psychedelic. So that's not a good place to save your epiphany. And I've tried to write it down, like I'm having this epiphany. Now, I don't think that the value is totally lost because I wasn't organized enough to make it applicable, but because I really value those experiences, even though I can't record them and tell you exactly what they were, or, but being in an environment where you do have somebody of trust and it's organized and you know what to do, you know what's coming, and then you can actually, I guess, just be more organized about it, right? My sister, she was abducted in Gainesville, the University of Florida, and she was, long story short, she was abducted and she was going to be raped and killed, and she jumped out of a car and she's got scars, and very traumatic, right? Also, my stepfather, her father, hung himself, I don't know, maybe a couple of years before that. I'm kind of lightly going over these things to get to the point. I know some people are probably thinking that I'm rather insensitive, but it's just, I'm trying to get to the point. She actually started taking like full on like acid on her own. Now, I'm not telling anybody to do that. Like, whatever it is, or even if you have access to that stuff, you've got to be careful with it. And what's being proposed here is like an approach, and you can do things the right way. Now, she didn't necessarily do it the right way. However, looking back, she's also said like that she has gained like serious healing as a result of those experiences. And like you had mentioned, whether it's with the universe, God, your demons, your fond memories, your dreams, however that works, right? If there is an organized way, in a healthy way, in a safe way, right, to get that done, like there is massive life-changing value there, massive. And I believe in it, and seeing her also speak to that, especially with dealing with the kinds of traumas. It's wild, man. So dude, that's very, very cool stuff, man. I think it's very cool.
Well, I'm so happy to hear of the deep work that your sister has done to heal, because, and really any good plant-based medicine person will tell you this. So here's the experience, okay? Here's the integration of that experience. Here's the work afterward to actually apply what it was here in this life. What kind of animals did you see, and what did they represent? What were the realizations that you had about what your role is in this world? What was the realization about your relationship with God or Earth Mother or any of these things? What was the relationship that you gained with this medicine? How is it going to actually long-term help your life? What's your strategy for that? And so that's a big part of the work, is that there's integration afterwards, where you're talking about what you saw and what you experienced. And oh my gosh, I've never actually loved myself. I hear a lot of people say that sort of thing. I've never actually understood how to truly lovable I actually am. I never had that kind of empathy for myself. So doing that work afterwards and applying that to your life, it's one thing to experience this. One of the things that I do is I talk it out afterwards and I record it, where this is what I went to here, and there were these people there, and this is what I experienced. This is what it felt like. So I have these long recordings, and so that I can go back, because as time goes, the memory fades.
Of course.
And,
yep.
and you want to integrate that stuff into your life. And that's where, for me, as the former CEO, is the strategy of that. How do you write it down? How do you make these things kind of like measurable in your life? I feel like I need to make more time in my life for my loved ones. What does that look like? Does that's 2 days a week of spending time with your family with the phone off? Is it 3 times a week? Is it one trip to Disneyland a year, or 3, or whatever it is for you in your life that actually makes real change out of this incredible gift that this medicine can give you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the part that I'm missing. Cause it was like, what it was like having a dream and you're like, man, that was a really cool dream. But then you can't remember it. And it's like, if you're not taking advantage of that, like that period, very fresh period, right? It fades, and it fades fast. Like, cause we've all been there. It's like, you have that dream and it's like, man, and then it's like, we're talking what, I don't know, 2 minutes. You're all like, oh, wait, it's slipping. I'm losing it. And it's like, and then all you know is like, oh, it was pretty cool, but I don't know what happened or what was said and what was, so yeah, I really, really, I'm behind that. I'm behind that wholeheartedly. And then putting it into, putting the boots to ground, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's like making moves on that is like the next level, right? Because like all I've got is some fond memories of an epiphany that I can't express, but it's like, man, yeah. So what is, I mean, what's like the length of that process? Like, what is that all entail? Is it on site? Is it remote? Is it like, how's all that look? Like the logistics?
Depending on the medicine, ketamine can be done remotely with, a Zoom link. And because it's not in the doses that it's prescribed from a doctor, it's not something that's going to, because, Matthew Perry overdosed on that, plus a lot of different things that he had in his body at the time. And from what I understand, he was in a hot tub at the time, which is never a good idea when you're on intoxicants. And so ketamine in a controlled way can be done remotely. The other medicines need to be done in person. They're much more strong. And so if you're doing something like MDMA, the studies that are being done 4 hours at a time, and then a couple of integration sessions, and then another 4-hour session and a couple of integration sessions. Ketamine is done 4 to 6 big sessions with an integration session in the middle. Of each of them. When you're talking about something like even a heavier one, like a mushroom, that's something where integration needs to happen weekly for a while until the person feels like, I think I really have gotten the maximum out of that particular experience. I think I need to go live it for a while.
Yeah.
And, somebody with the addictive mind has the tendency to go, well, a little bit was good. A lot will be better, right? And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to do 30 ayahuasca sessions, in 2 years. Now, ayahuasca is a deeply sacred medicine that needs to be done with a trained shaman who is initiated in a rite, a very respectable medicine. That's something that, if you're doing ayahuasca 30 times, are you the Dalai Lama now or something?
It's a real thing, man. I've known guys, like, cause this is, I want to stress I want to make this very clear that doing this in a constructive and a safe environment can be very valuable. Not having those elements of safety, supervision, approach, and having that lined up and doing it correctly. Like, I know people that are fried. They're fried. Like, that's the best term, because they've done too much psychedelics. They've eaten way too much acid, and they went to a show or a concert. They're not the same. So I'm letting people know. I've seen it. Like, obviously I can't measure that, but I'm like, man, he ain't right no more. So like, this is something that could be very valuable. But again, like most things done improperly can be very dangerous. And so like, I have just seen people that just aren't quite there. Like, they're just like off because they were just recreationally. And then of course with the addictive mindset, abusing it. And so then what does that equal? Well, it's a guy who's, staring off into space a little bit too long all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit here about some of the dangers that there are. And of course, like the overuse of anything is something that's not a great thing. You launch yourself into realms that are outside of your normal consciousness, and ensuring that you're not coming back with things that you don't want to have attached to you is also an important thing. Making sure that the people that you're doing this sort of thing with are trained in understanding how to integrate you back into your life. And if there's something that has come back with you, an entity, a spirit, something like this, that can be pushed away, or that you understand the skills when you're going into a deep session of how to avoid coming back with something, because that can change a person, as well as maybe the person had history of schizophrenia or bipolar in their family, and this medicine is maybe not perfect for you.
Right. Yep. It's not an ideal fit for everyone. And in fact, like maybe in the appropriate environment and things like that, but like I would even be hard pressed. I'd be scared to do what I had done before, even though I was speaking positively about it. Like that was a different version of me, and who I am now, like it would be imperative that it would have to be what you're speaking about. A safe space, supervision, it would have to be that. Otherwise, like it's a little scary. So, but it doesn't have to be when all of those variables are in place, right? Like when you have all those things lined up and it's constructive. I mean, it can make a huge difference, man. Now, so where would anybody want to go and find out more from you, Jeremy, and see what's going on, and what, like, how would they want to get started, or what's the first step, if you will?
Well, if you're interested in finding out more about me, I am the host of the Mindful Mutiny podcast, and my website is mindfulmutiny.com. The concept of being highly spiritual and going against the grain to be the highest version of yourself. Mindful Mutiny. That's where my coaching is. That's where my Patreon is. That's where all the information about my podcast, which is on YouTube and Apple and Spotify, are, to find out more about the stuff that I do.
Nice. Okay, so and I'm gonna have all that in print for everybody, so everybody can check it out. But Mindful Mutiny, love it, man. Yeah, this is super cool stuff, man. And I think you're ahead of your time, even though, like, when I say that, it's because I'm excited about the respect that it's getting, and then the constructive approach, right? Because I've seen, like I mentioned, I know there's value there, and people, when they go about it the way that you're talking about, it can really change somebody's life, man. And I think that's amazing, brother. Very cool stuff. Okay, guys, this has been another episode of The Next Fix with Jeremy right here. We're going to check out the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Until next time, guys.